Hello, and welcome to another edition of Uconomy. I'm Thomas Fox, Community Outreach Director of Cambridge Credit Counseling.
And I'm jumping the gun McGee right now. So excited because we haven't been in studio for a few weeks, but I'm Nunzio Bruno, and I'm a business consultant for Financially Digital.
And the reason, I guess, I think I jumped the gun by throwing it, but we're talking about work today.
Yeah.
We're talking about work. Actually, we have a two-part. We hope that you stay not only for this episode, but our next episode is going to be, we're doing a series on talent and how to find the right job.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we're kind of doing it a flip because, Nunzio, is very active in the business community, as am I, and we get to hear, we're fortunate enough to hear from a lot of different perspectives, business owners, venture capitalists, employees,
small
across
business
the spectrum.
startups.
Yeah. Just their feedback, what they're seeing in the local economy, what they're experiencing, and things like that. So it's very helpful to us, and we really appreciate it because then we can come back and talk to you about it and really kind of give you some information that's happening now.
Right.
And one of a colleague of mine sent me an article which I thought was very intriguing. It was the top reasons people leave a company boil down to one reason, and we're going to go to the multitude of reasons.
Right.
But the one reason, and Nunzio, share with us, what's this boiled down reason?
Well, top reason, top talent leave an organization is when they're badly managed and the organization is confusing and uninspiring. So it's a lot of different things in that one little sentence, a lot of nuances.
Yeah, but it stands to reason. Let's take a look at badly managed. We have people now that the technology has changed. More people have the ability to work from home. Yet, unfortunately, seasoned managers or senior managers are very short-sighted in the sense, not only because they think that you have to be in the office to be working. I've seen reports that have shown that employees working in an office are actually working 35% of the time. So that's mostly bunk. So when it comes to badly managed, it's also not just understanding your employees, but understand what's available to your employees as well and how they can be more efficient in their jobs. I've read research reports from the government of all places where they were able to increase productivity by $2.3 billion, if I'm not mistaken, by letting employees work from home 1 day a week.
Right. And that you're allowing them to use the resources that they have to be better resources for the company, essentially. If I'm less stressed and I can focus on my tasks at hand, or I'm not being bogged down by politics at the office, I can actually be more creative in what I'm doing. And that's going to lead to a better bottom line.
And that leads into the confusing aspect. When things get confusing, sometimes our desk seems unmanageable. It's because people keep dumping new projects on there, and even though they don't understand the priorities of it, so they say, "Well, I need this done in 5 minutes." Well, great, you just gave me 5 other things you need done in 10 minutes.
Right.
So what's what? Well, I need them all done. Well, that's not helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to apply your resources. You know what I mean? You say, all right, so these are the top 3 things I need done. And this is especially helpful when you work with, a lot of you managers are out there right now that are going to have these college kids coming in. Millennials look at work very differently. They don't look at it's 9 to 5. They look at it as very project-based, deadline-based. Well, when do you need this? I need this in 3 weeks. Fantastic. They'll work at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They'll get done with a kegger and come in and do some work.
Right.
Their work ethic is different.
It's not about the body in the seat anymore. It's not a race to see how many hours you can log in on a timesheet, because you can be working 100 hours a week and not be efficient and just be a drain on corporate resources or the company's limited resources, especially if it's small business.
Absolutely.
So, button seat syndrome is not necessarily always the best approach.
No, not at all. And especially, that's where you get to the uninspiring aspect.
Yes.
When you don't feel as though that you're providing any value to your employer, it's very demoralizing. And you very well could be, doing the greatest things ever, but if they're not willing to encourage you and inspire you, that's a huge drain too. And I've actually heard that and out of these reasons, I hear that more so than anything else. Even the badly managed, people want to be inspired. I want to love what your company does. I want to marry what your company does because it becomes part of my psychological makeup. Because I can't go out and espouse the benefits of what you do if I don't believe in what you do.
And you won't do the best work unless you have that conviction.
Absolutely. And we forget, listen, we talk about all these resources for business and all this other great stuff, but we tend to forget that our number one resource are human beings. And when you start treating human beings like they're capital on paper, you get a very different result. You get people that they just don't like the job. You get people not being efficient. Morale is down, and then people leave. And then you sit there scratching and go, well, wait, what happened? Where'd everybody go? So, so that's kind of the gist, the overall gist. But let's we want to kind of that's a broad statement. So we want to boil it down to a couple. And I think Nunzio alluded to this one earlier. Bureaucracy. I can't say this in front of Jim because Jim doesn't like this guy, and this guy doesn't like this guy, and this is a whole.
Or even I can't get a stapler purchased from Staples because I have to get 37 stamps from different departments saying the okay to spend the $4.99 for something that'll make my job easier.
Or even probably the one that drives me to do heroin is we've always done it that way. Oh, really?
Wow.
That's great. Well, if we always did it that way, Columbus would still be, saying, well, the Earth's flat.
Yeah.
Things change, and bureaucracies need to either evolve or go away, and that's really how companies become successful.
Right. I think a point to add to that is people are empowered when they feel like they can make little decisions for themselves.
Absolutely.
So, regardless of where your job is, whether you're, top mid manager or, somebody that's actually working in the Excel spreadsheets as an account manager, you should be able to use, they trust you to make decisions, so you should be able to exercise that ability and use your own judgment, within reason, and it'll make your life easier because you don't have to worry about getting somebody else's approval for, small to moderately agreed upon things, and you feel like you're making a difference because you made that decision.
Well, I think that feeds into our second one, which I think is good to talk about a little bit.
Second one is failing to find a project for the talent that ignites their passion. So again, people, I'm not going to, if I'm disinterested in something, I might go through the motions of it, but I'm not really going to put my heart into it, and I'm not going to use the depths of my abilities, the reason why, you hired me to do it, to get that project done. And that's going to be ill affected by, the way it's presented, or, if it's a TV commercial or whatever it is, it's not going to be the best that it can be because I'm not in it to win.
Yeah, you're like, all right, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, I got to get out of here. I got to go watch Crank Yankers.
Yep.
It's on. They're running a whole special on Comedy Central. You know what I mean? That is important. You got to. If people are passionate about something, passion is an acid that can eat through anything. Any objection that someone can give you about something, you're passionate, you understand the nuances of it. You understand the ins and outs, the upsides, the downsides, and whatever it may be. And when people have objections, like they will, it's easier to have a conversation when you have passion about something because then you're coming from a different standpoint. You have a genuine approach to it.
Right.
You want something to be excellent, and you work towards that.
Right.
And that I think is very powerful for employers to harness should they choose to do it.
Right.
One of those things to ensure that those people always stay motivated are to give them good performance reviews. And unfortunately, this is another reason why people leave companies because there's really not a conversation, about improvement. You did these 8 things wrong. Great. Well, how could I improve upon that? I don't know. Just don't do them again. Okay, but if you don't like the way I did them, why don't you tell me the way to do them the right way?
Right.
And that doesn't happen. And I think that leads into our next one too. And I think that, which is very interesting as well.
Oh, no discussion around career development. That's huge. If I don't feel like I can achieve something, or even if there's no vertical leap for me, if there's no where else that I can continue to make a difference, then I'm going to very much perceive my useful life coming to an end. This is kind of a big deal, especially in well-diversified teams, because you could have a project that a whole group of people are working on, and if you don't do a good enough job explaining to, if we have different views about what's important, just because what I think is important might not be what you think is important, doesn't mean that we can't both work as passionately as possible towards that end goal. It's about reaching that audience. Same thing with career development. So whether it's a project or a job, if I'm part of a team that's growing together, a think tank or an entire finance or marketing department, if our ultimate goal is to be an asset to this big company, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses essentially, but if we're not impassioned to move together for our own even individual reasons or for my own development reasons, then again, I'll be disinterested and I'll be on Monster looking for new jobs.
And that's the other thing too. When you're dealing with, especially individuals who are very career orientated, what are we working towards? What am I working toward? Yes, obviously I'm here to meet the mission of your organization and obviously get compensated for that. However, we have aspirations. We want to do more. And let's not forget that the people that we are when we're hired are vastly different than the people who we are 2-3 years down the road after being employed. We've got wisdom. We've got knowledge now. You know, those people that have an excellent drive are you know, their race cars are ready to go. And if you don't have that development, wow, you know, I'm watching this guy and he's doing a great job. Don't just stop there. What can I do to have him excel?
Right.
How can I help him grow? Because if he grows, you grow. Everybody grows together at the same time.
Right, and that goes to that old age of thinking where, you know, I'm threatened by even my subordinate's success, so I have to kind of keep the brakes on them a little bit, you know, keep them down a little bit so that I can continue to always be in a dominant role.
And unfortunately, that's someone who's just not secure with themselves. They're ignorant, and unfortunately, they have this sense of ego that is always going to essentially set them up for failure in the future. So, you know, very myopic thinking and cancerous in a sense. One that I've seen, and mostly from the nonprofit sector, only because we're juggling all over the place, shifting whims and strategic priorities. Sometimes this cannot be helped, but it is very difficult when you're at a well-functioning large organization that you're working on a project that's going to take 6 months, and then all of a sudden says, well, great, you got to jump on this other project. It's going to take 8 months. Well, okay, well, what happens to this one? Oh no, you got to get that done in 6 months too. You know, you're taking a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. If you keep trying to do the same thing with the same efforts, you're going to get a diluted effect back. And you can't, you know, you're not going to put the best effort into each of these projects. And one or both projects at that point are ultimately susceptible to failure. Even though they're susceptible no matter what, you increase that just by splitting up, you're diversifying, you know, where you want these people's attention.
And that even applies to small businesses. I mean, you know, if you have a business strategy or, you know, a part of your marketing plan that you're trying to, you know, engage or establish or move forward, you know, if you decide to work on it, you know, gung-ho one week, but then drop it the next week, well, Twitter's still going to be there or Facebook's still going to be there and you're not, and people are going to notice. You know, so if you don't have that follow through, or at least the systems in place to set up some kind of, you know, procedure where you're always there, you know, with, you know, you can pre-schedule updates and, you know, pre-write blog posts, whatever. If it's, again, a marketing venture, that loss is going to be affected. People are going to see that you're not there. It's going to affect your efficacy. You know, it's going to affect your brand ultimately. And that's going to affect your bottom line.
Absolutely. Lack of accountability is something that I see in some organizations as well, and it's frustrating. You know, imagine having a team of people underneath you, but yet none of them are accountable for anything.
Right.
How can you get your job done? Because Jim, you know, if you're saying, well, Jim, you got to get this done by Thursday, or what?
Right.
You know, I mean,
Right.
you need accountability, and I think in some sense people like to be accountable. You know, people need to do that. You know, so it's very important to do it. And the one last thing, I mean, we got to wrap up, but the one thing I guess that ultimately I think is a downfall is a lack of open-mindedness. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as everything else, we've seen, listen, Lindsay and I both have tablets right now. Tablets run around.
I win, for the record. You see that tablet?
No.
I swayed him.
By the way, my
taking
netbook
credit
was
for
broken.
it. No,
But
taking credit for it.
business changed so much. Facebook, Twitter wasn't even around 5 years ago. Now all of a sudden you have to include them in your marketing plan.
Yep.
So if you're not open-minded, you are going to fail.
Right.
Not today, not tomorrow, not next week, but you will fail one time eventually.
Right.
Well, anyway, we have to wrap things up. Nunzio can why don't you tell the folks where we are online?
You can find us at the Economy Show on Twitter, just Facebook Economy Show, and you'll see our smiling faces or our smiling logo. Are we anywhere else? We're on the business channel.
Yeah, you can also visit, please visit cambridgecredit.org if you any kind of financial issues, anything you're struggling with. And also, in that same vein, it's always good to empower yourself with financial literacy information, so please be sure to visit Financially Digital as well.
Yep.
financiallydigital.com.
And that's where you find me.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.